Hi guys, welcome to another quick lecture. This is on writing for the Nigerian mass media. The techniques we're going to introduce here, they all apply to writing for the mass media, no matter the country, but we're focusing on Nigerian mass media. We're going to be using examples from the mass media in Nigeria, but what we're going to be treating is writing for the mass media, and our focus is on how to write news. But before you start writing for the mass media, before you start writing news, you need to understand the meaning of news. And that's the first thing we're going to do. Let's first look at the definition of news. You don't forget that in writing for the mass media, you have different media you write for. We have the print media, that's newspapers, magazines, and of course the electronic media, radio, television, the internet. So we move on to what is news. Now let's look at the nature of that word, news. From the word news, the concept is talking about new things, fresh happenings. So when you talk about news, you are talking about a fresh happening, a recent occurrence, and that is why they call it news. So from the concept of news, you get new things, fresh happenings. So what is news? News is an account of current happening. So when we say news writing, you're talking about giving account of an occurrence. And here we're saying that news has to do with current happening. That is why it is news. Remember, we started by giving you the nature of the concept, new things, fresh happenings, latest events. That's why they call it news. Now, account of current happening. News is also information not previously known to someone. Now, you don't write what is common or what everyone knows and say it is news. If you work for Punch this day, The Guardian, they'll be expecting you to give them fresh events. That's why they call it news. In fact, you realize that many media organizations sell because of breaking news. So you get out there, you are working with other journalists, you are struggling to get news first. So you're struggling to break the news first. So news is current happening and information not previously known by someone. Even if people have heard about that event, the fact is that you are going to give an account of that event as news. So news is something not previously known by someone. Now, news is account of current event written by a journalist and reported through a mass medium, whether it is print or electronic medium. The fact that we're trying to look at different dimensions of the concept will make you understand what news is. So we have said that news is an account of current happening, that news has to do with new things, fresh things, recent occurrence, and we're saying that news is something that people are not aware of, something that people didn't previously know about. That is why it is news. That is why they get curious to read it. Now, we're saying that news is an account of an event, of course, a current event, written by a journalist and reported through a mass medium. Now, this definition is taking into cognizance the fact that a professional has to write news, someone who is trained to understand what makes an event newsworthy. That's why they're saying if it is news, then it has to be written by a journalist and it has to be published through a medium. The fact that you're getting the information from a platform, a news platform, that is what makes it news. And that is why you when you hear something from your friend, or you hear it in a park or in a beer parlor, you don't regard it except you read it in the news, except you hear it on radio. News is an account of an event written by a journalist, reported through a medium, whether it is print or electronic. Now, news is a report of a recent and important event of interest to the public. Now, this is very essential because you are giving an account of an event that will be of interest to the audience of your newspaper. This is where the concept of Afghanistanism comes in. Afghanistanism is a concept that refers to writing a story on an issue or event far away from the vicinity of your audience. That is to say, writing on events that your audience or your immediate environment are not interested in or will not be interested in. That is Afghanistanism. You can't be, for instance, giving an account of what is happening in America, what Donald Trump is doing with Congress, or what Donald Trump is doing about COVID-19. Whereas in your own country, for instance, you're working for Punch in Nigeria, there are events, there are unfolding events, there are stories that are occurring minute by minute and you're not reporting them. This last definition on this slide is saying that you have to consider the audience before determining what is news. There's this concept that is used to describe news. It says, if a dog bites a man, it is not news. But if a man bites a dog, it is news. The first aspect of this expression is saying that what is natural, what is common, will not make news. If a dog bites a man, that's normal. But the second aspect is saying that when it is unusual, then it's news. The second aspect of the expression is saying that what is unusual will make news. Now, we will look at news values so that you understand that it is not only oddity that makes news. But this second concept is saying that people get curious over what is not normal, is not usual. The expression is saying that you should understand that news is not ordinary. News has to be something of interest to the audience. It has to be an account of an event that is current. And of course, it has to be newsworthy. So from the definition of news we've seen so far, you will see that news is a recent occurrence that is worth reporting. It has to be worth reporting. That's why that expression, if a dog bites a man, it's not news. But if a man bites a dog, it's news. It has to be worth reporting. It has to be unusual. It has to be current. It has to be of interest to the audience of the medium you are working for.